Welcome to Gary's Roundtable. We'll talk about everything imaginable, some things that aren't. Brace yourself. Welcome to Gary's Roundtable, Season 1, Episode 4. This is kind of an optimistic recap episode. I'm joined by Linda Alvira, Bryan Dryer, Michael Couling, and Mike Proctor. They were all guests on the first 3 episodes, and we had a discussion about, cause for hope. It was a lot of fun, great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome.
I don't know about you guys. I've been up for a couple hours here.
Well, I have too, but I'm still drinking coffee, so that means it's morning.
Yeah, I'm drinking tea.
If I put whiskey in it, does that mean it's afternoon or?
Just a good morning.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you
I
gotta.
drink coffee at 9 o'clock at night, so that I can't do that. It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, we've all established that Brian's an alcoholic.
Yeah. It's a long established fact.
Right.
And Michael's a manic depressive. There
Right.
we go. Let's
Oh.
continue.
Wonder why he can't sleep.
I'm an egomaniac. So I just for my diagnosis for the day.
Right.
Uh-oh, what shall I be? Psychopath. Serial killer. They look just like regular people.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to focus on that, Linda.
All right.
No.
Seems important.
Okay, we need details and go. No, we'd probably get better ratings if we were. I was
Started
interviewing.
when I was young.
Right. Had that one uncle. No.
Or maybe aunt.
Well, I guess. I mean, it's a brave new world.
Yeah, you got to be brave to be in it.
Yeah, it's true. That is
Well,
true.
give us a framework, Gary. Let us work from a framework. Where are we going?
Okay, well, I was just kind of thinking, first of all, we know Mike Proctor is with us. He's from the first episode where we talked about alien invasion as a potential end of the world type scenario or destruction of humanity. And then Bryan Dryer and Michael Couling are both here from episode 2 where we talked about nuclear destruction, and Linda Alvira from episode 3 where we talked about artificial intelligence. So I kind of wanted to just circle back and kind of look at it from a positive, as much of a positive spin as we can put on it, and see what kind of hope, what kind of optimism there is. And I think as since we've established the order that you guys were all originally on, I'm going to start with Mr. Mike Proctor and our topic. And it's not just him. I want everybody's to weigh in, talk. But as far as like aliens, if there are aliens and they do come here, we kind of focused on how they would be enemies and how they would potentially destroy us and the threat. Now I want to think about what could the positives be.
Man, we went down some rabbit holes in that episode.
That's pretty much the theme of the show is
as
rabbit holes.
And more so from the alien perspective. I mean, that's pretty much all you're doing. But man, with aliens and everything like that, like we went down a lot of stuff talking about what are they here for, and I kind of went off on my tangents about my thoughts on that. So with aliens, I'm excited. Like, it excites me. Is that weird? Like, is that weird? I like
No,
the
man.
thought of aliens.
No, it's not at all.
It's
Like-
normal. That's why we're here.
It's no weirder than the rest of us. That's what we've just confirmed.
Yeah, no, for real. And so, like,
It is
think-
better than being afraid,
right. And I just, we went down this a lot, but like, why haven't they attacked us already? Like, is it a combative sort of relationship and all that stuff? And I don't think it is. So it's exciting. It's like, why are they here? What can they offer us? We tend to strike relationships with everything we, come into contact with, different forms and such, but we're pretty adaptive.
Right.
And
Well,
so it could be a good thing. You know, it could be a good relationship there.
Well, that's one thing that I think is if they're willing to teach us and share with us. Obviously, this is all have the little caveat if they actually exist and are visiting, but then they obviously have, you know, vastly superior technology to us, and I think they might be able to offer some amazing insight and solutions to some of our own problems. I mean, I think we'd probably all in this agree that the biggest threat to humanity at this point is most likely the nuclear weapons and proliferation and all the nuclear shit that we've got.
It seems like our goal, somewhat right now, being at what state of civilization we're in, like what's the next goal? The next goal is to like move to a new planet, probably. And so if an alien race or being came into contact with us, like we would probably strike a relationship, trade resources and such. Like I don't know if I'm fully believing that they could just wipe us out necessarily. Maybe they could, but you know, we're pretty, again, adaptable and can defend ourselves in ways like that's what people do, is just solve problems. So if the aliens were coming and they were gonna, you know, we strike up that relationship, like I wonder what they would want. Like what could we offer them?
Water.
Water.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
may not want what we're offering. They may want something else,
Space.
like blood.
New full ground.
Blood,
Maybe.
going some War of the
Well,
Worlds
no,
stuff there.
There actually was a story where the alien needed blood as their food, and when they found out it would kill humans, they sadly left. But yeah, I mean, they could want something we cannot give them, like our life.
Is that what they were
force.
doing? Sticking things up our butts? Just getting blood?
Oh no, that was another thing they were getting.
Yes.
Something else we won't talk about.
Oh. No, but I look at you know, like we've created a lot of problems in this world, and they could potentially hold answers and solutions, which, you know, if they had a way to eliminate you know, nuclear radiation or something like that, that would be a really positive thing, because I don't think that's the problem with this today is I think artificial intelligence is easy to say. There are some amazing positive things that could come from that. And with alien technology, whatever, it's really easy to see the positives. You know, hey, they could be here to be friends, share technology, help us with, you know, medical research, all kinds of things. But I cannot see a single positive with the nuclear proliferation. That's my only thing on the aliens is they might be able to solve a problem that I can't see us being able to get out of on our own.
Well, I tend to sort of think of it in a different way, in that I almost think that if we're given that classic scenario of the aliens coming to the earth and we don't know why, I think they're going to look at us like we look at fish in a fish tank. I think, you know,
It's a cookbook.
Yeah, we went there fairly heavily too.
And you can keep them, and we like these rocks, okay, but we're probably not going to really worry too much about it, you know. And if they're that powerful, I think we really are just like, I mean, barely feasible as a species. We're hanging in there, you know, right now. And I think that maybe we are a fish tank. Maybe we're just a giant experiment, you know. Maybe they put here in the first place. So coming back, they're just checking on the pH level in the fish tank to see, you know, like, let's see what happened after we left this stew here for a couple billion years, you know.
We talked about like the aliens environment and how different it could potentially be. So just like, I don't know, I think the logical step in evolution, I guess the evolution that like I would understand, is for us to now branch out to another planet and I don't know if I necessarily see that happening. I guess more long term or going outside of our solar system at least. It would require some outside help. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
like travel beyond light speed is way beyond us right now.
yeah, it's so far beyond us. And so, you know, it's kind of a crazy thought, but that I feel like that would be the next thing.
We've taken our first baby steps in this galaxy, let alone the universe, you know. We're just really just starting to teeter out, you know, and like so it's exciting. Who knows if given the funding and the proper motivational tools, what space is going to look like in 100 years can be pretty exciting. But like Gary said before, it's hard to focus on anything positive about bombs, really. You know?
What if that's what the aliens wanted? What if they wanted our nuclear bombs? Then they could, what would they do with them and where would they take them?
Maybe the aliens haven't figured out how to split the atom yet, and they need our help.
Well, you know what? That's entirely possible. And maybe they don't want to split the atom.
Maybe they know. Yeah.
If they have alternate power sources and they don't need to think about, you know, potentially world destroying,
tearing the fabric of reality itself.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
They could be here removing those kinds of toys from us so that we can grow up. So they're here, you know, taking away our dangerous toys. So they'll take that.
What if it's sort of a Terminator scenario, but it's like a benevolent scenario? Like they send their aliens back to us to like correct something awful that we've done as a species. You know what I mean?
Like Terminator edition.
Yeah, they're quantum leaping us basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Just sending back nannies and grandmas to come back and yell at us when we screwed up.
I mean, let's be fair. That may be a highly effective form of correction. It seems like it'd be useful in certain scenarios. So
that's a whole lot of people need yelled at. So
if an alien nanny was yelling at me, I would probably change my ways. So
that's true.
But we'll never know because time was corrected.
Right.
Oh.
I don't know. I think that if life is as unique as we know it to be, then we have to have something that is somewhat unique to offer to the universe. And if the aliens are coming here, I don't know. It must be just my millennial mindset here, but I just feel like it's not always going to be the invasion scenario that we are, I guess, constantly worried of.
It's that's like Hollywood, you know. They've got us all like convinced that it's a doomsday, you know, end of the world Armageddon type of scenario. And for some people, I think it certainly would be. There are certain people I know that are not comfortable with the reality that we're in right now, and you know that could be crushing to them. Like, what does that do to your idea of, like, I don't know, religion, art? You know, like that changes everything.
Yeah, particularly the religion. When you have, you know, you spent your whole life believing that we're special, we're created in God's image, we're, you know, the chosen, and then some other species shows up.
This, like, they have a plan on what happens when the aliens come and they're like, we're here, you know, so they can make their turn and be like, well, Jesus said, you know, that too, you know, we found this book and
it's not interesting. It's interesting you say that, though, because I've had that conversation with close family members, and this goes back to what Michael Couling and I talked about during our turn at this. I was telling them that it takes just as much faith to believe in, you know, existence of or prior visitation of extraterrestrials that have shaped the fabric of our society as it does that it was influenced by a nameless, faceless spiritual being that controls all matter and defies the laws of physics. like they're equally faith-based. And in fact, that my argument to them, which of course ended the conversation quickly, was that it takes less faith to believe in the aliens because they would actually exist in the known universe that we could apply, understandable laws of the natural realm to, and not have to explain through some supernatural faith-based explanation. And they were just like, wait, so you're saying aliens are God? And I'm like, I'm not saying they're not God, but just
More likely.
but it's just, well, and it also, I think it's interesting because if you look at the historical context of a lot of things that we've been taught as kids, that were like the whole world was blah, and whoever wrote that, their whole world was affected by what was happening, but it wasn't the entire globe. It was whatever world they knew of at the time that they wrote it, and it affected everyone they knew. And I think it's the same way for us. We've experienced such a tiny speck of what's out there, and I think it's interesting when you talk about what could they want, and that the idea of the fishbowl sort of thing. But we've talked about going into space and trying to find other suitable homes for our species, and it's needle in a haystack because of the whole Goldilocks phenomenon of we can't find the right mix of this and that and the other natural elements. And maybe that's what aliens
of class M planets.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they find so intriguing, is that we just have this perfect storm of essentially this terrarium where life in so many different manifestations can grow. And maybe that's not the case for their species or their existence. And so just being able to study what makes this planet hospitable and how it might help cultivate forms of life other places, maybe that's, talking about a benevolent reason for them visiting. It seems like, at least from my incredibly skewed perspective and believing that it's happened before, that maybe that's the case, is they're like, hey, let's see what happens when we do this, or let's see if we blow on the sails of the ship this way, but what happens to the race in 1,000 years or whatever.
Like we're just the coolest safari in the universe.
I mean, again, but it does, if you're looking for a positive spin, I feel like that, we are unique in our solar system, certainly, but within at least the research that I've seen from smarter people than I, trying to find other places that can even remotely begin to support life as we know it, or our lives, it's not happening. And so I feel like it's, we become more and more unique as that search expands, and maybe that's something that's appealing to beings from other places who've done the same research years in the future, and they've had to start branching out, and now they're finding that this is it's a suitable fishbowl to kind of watch everything exist and move and rise and fall. And it's from the top down, it'd be an interesting display, I'm sure.
I don't know how their consciousness works, but I know my consciousness. I was scrolling on my phone, and you ever watch safari videos? Like, I don't know, I just love watching animal videos. I watched a guy get chased by a cougar the other day. It was yesterday. It was super intense, but it's fun. Like, I can see why they're coming here and watching us if that's the case, because it's really, really fun to watch stuff. Watch
Great,
animals.
we're the equivalent of cat videos.
Yeah, essentially.
Like that game Sims, but like even better, like.
Yeah, what's the coolest? What would be the coolest game to us? Like, VR is so
Yeah.
awesome, and it's getting real. Got AR now.
It's like Sims, but like in hyper reality. Like, we're all like these little guys, and and we all have our little lives, and then we go to sleep, and then we go to the bathroom, and then we go pet our dog, and
I hope whoever's controlling me or watching me is a high level. Like, I hope I got a lot of achievements and experience.
I just hope they
you're
don't.
on your fifth life. Yeah.
I just hope they don't upgrade us to like GTA or something, because then we're going to be in trouble. That's what it seems like sometimes.
Level up or change your clothes, or
Yeah. Build a
change
new
your-
house.
the game of life. Congratulations, you got a promotion.
You got like 2 new kids you put in the back of the little
Right.
plastic.
Little pink and blue pegs.
So are you guys, are you optimistic about the future at this point? I'm at least halfway through my life. If I'm super blessed, I'll make it to 90. And so like I'm looking at it from about halfway and I'm going, I don't know, like I honestly think it's flip of the coin as to like what sort of world I'm leaving for my nephews and nieces, and like I do the best that I can with what's been given to me. But I'm not going to say that I'm not worried about what the world looks like in 50 years. Are you honestly optimistic about where we are as a species 50 years from now?
I am. I'm
A little bit.
optimistic. Yeah, I'm optimistic. But I think asking myself that question, like I feel like I'm way too self-obsessed and concerned with my own stuff really at this point in my life. Like so I'll be 30 this year. And I'm starting to kind of have my eyes open, I guess, as I age a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like whoever's controlling me, their little brother has been playing up to this point, and like Big Brother just came in and took the controller, and now like it's on.
No. Well, that's awesome. That makes me feel good. And one thing I'll say real quick is like, I don't expect that there's like millennials who will be listening to this podcast or whatever, but in the possibility that there are young people out there who happen to traipse upon this, I want to say that like young people right now, they get a bad rap, but I really honestly am blown away by the people that I know that are younger. They're so much more empathetic than we were when we were kids, and they feel so much more, and they're so much more open, and they're way more fucking radical than we were when we were kids. And like I'm actually excited about what society might look like if they are given a chance to grow up and shape society. And I think we might become like way more loving and way better, as people, as how we take care of each other. And like, I don't know how that happened, but I'm kind of stoked about that. Like if they're taking care of me when I'm an old fart, I feel okay,
Well, the
So-
radicalness of like, I don't know, the younger generation and kind of is bringing a lot of this, like even the alien stuff into light, because now that this stuff is going to be released and it's going to be blown up in all of the social channels that we all kind of rely on, like the greatest minds in the world are now going to be able to shift their focus onto the existence of these aliens, like that, because the Pentagon is releasing information. I believe it's this year, actually. I haven't really followed up on that. Or soon, but they're going to be releasing a lot of reports of the unidentified aerial phenomena.
They have slowly releasing some. They're mostly video and they're mostly really grainy. And they're mostly like from fighter cockpits, like, oh, look at that, what's on the grid. And so it's kind of hard to see what they're showing you, but I do think there's some slow disclosure. I mean, how can there not be? There's definitely other things going on that we don't know about. And maybe it's like future tech that we don't know about. But if it's from our fighter cockpits and it's future tech, then it's not ours, So where is it coming from? You know what I mean? Like, I do think that there is some other kind of life out there. I don't know that we are able to define it or that it's even necessarily in our dimensional space. But like, I think that, there's been ways that our society has already been shaped by that without going into the whole ancient aliens thing too far.
That's
But
covered in episode 1 for anyone listening. Just go ahead and go back and listen.
If they come back, I think that they've been here before. So maybe it's not even it's just a rotational thing where they just haven't come around yet, but we're like on shift and they'll get to us sometime. And the fact that we've been holding our own and haven't actually like destroyed each other quite yet, and maybe the other thing is that we're still so savage as a species. They just don't want anything to do with us right now. Like, we can't stop hitting each other with sticks and fighting over stupid pieces of dirt, and being mean and awful and, killing each other for no reason at all. So maybe we have some more evolving to do before they'll even reveal themselves to us.
Yeah, these are just flybys to see how we're doing, and they'll come back in another 50 years.
They're like, oh, you guys aren't done yet.
Yeah.
You're, really? You're still on that shit? You haven't figured out how to feed everybody yet?
Right.
Or
Or
you're still on that shit.
or cared enough to try.
Yeah.
That's the part that I think would be kind of the bigger picture is we're not even trying to take care of our own people.
Yeah.
Well, some people are.
Well, I mean, we at large as a society are, it's just the level of indifference and apathy is mind blowing.
Is there, if there is a checklist, what's on the checklist? Like if there is a checklist, then things like everybody has adequate food supply without having to fight anybody else for it is probably on that checklist. And like taking care of your own space without shitting in your own space is probably on that checklist.
Right.
So like we're probably not quite there yet. We're not quite cooked yet. Maybe our zoo experiment is not quite fulfilled. But there's this whole idea in science fiction to like kind of bring it all back around that like the explosion at Los Alamos, with the first bomb, atomic bomb, like was literally like the signal to other species that like they had better start paying attention to us because we had taken this baby step forward, which of course is what allowed us to eventually leave our atmosphere. That sort of research and technology is kind of all tied in together. So we don't get off the planet, first of all, without the explosion at Los Alamos. And so, we'd never be able to have done space exploration without it. So maybe there's your positive that you were looking for.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I like to think that they're not here because we were, or they're going to come here because we were so naughty and destructive. But I'm also, as far as the positive goes, if that's why they're here, then they're here because we are a threat to them. What
Or
I mean?
our, like
The Galactic Empire.
Right.
Yeah.
The Death Star.
We're turning the pH in our own fish tank, and like slowly like the water is getting more and more murky and like we keep shitting in our own fish tank. And like, if we don't stop killing ourselves in this fish tank, then we're not gonna make it, So maybe the galactic overlord's gonna have to come in with a net and like literally like be like, it's time to clean up the fish tank, like you guys made a giant mess of my experiment, and there's fish floating on top of the tank and it doesn't look real good right now. New filters and we need to stop eating each other,
Oh man.
Just they got to get rid of the fish, get all new fish.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right. These fish are disgusting. We need different fish.
Wash them. You remember when your parents used to like tell you that like Fluffy went to live on a nice farm
Oh geez.
with Uncle Bill and
Yes.
Yep.
We're all
Those
going to
fish
live
went
on a
to-
nice farm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Those fish are all in a nice clean ocean now.
Right.
And the salmon farm.
Those are supposed to be pretty dirty too.
Oh no, I'm sure they are. I was just,
Yeah. Well, see, that's why not all the new
Like
generation.
genetic
great.
salmon is a thing now. Like they can make salmon like with like cloning technology. They can make a salmon. You can't even tell it's not a salmon on the plate.
Yeah, aren't we're up to like sheep at this point now. Just
Yeah,
close
but I
it.
mean, like, as far as like making meat, like out of like, cell, without
Yeah, that's a
actually
great idea.
having to harvest a fish, so what is that whole thing about, like, to serve man in the
Yep.
Twilight Zone?
It's a cookbook.
Yeah, to serve man.
Exactly. It's all in how you read it.
All right, so overall, I guess we didn't all answer Mike's question about the about our optimism, or if we have any of it. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on that. Not really. I really don't have a lot of optimism for the future. I don't think that we're progressing fast enough as a species to undo the damage.
Your Gen X is showing, Gary.
Well, yeah,
I kid.
I can't help it. But I just don't see how we can actually overcome all this stuff without some kind of just a massive
Catastrophe.
no, not necessarily a catastrophe, but we needed some kind of awakening, like a mass awakening, like, oh shit, this is, we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction on a daily basis. And everybody who would potentially care is so busy doing we're so distracted by everyday life, and we're so dependent on the almighty dollar, and on, buckling down and going to work, that we spend our whole lives. That's the thing, is we're focused on my family. I'm focused on paying my bills, taking care of my family, and the struggles of my friends. But as a larger society, might sound cold, but I don't really give a shit. Not like I don't in a broad sense, but I don't know, some dude in Nebraska, I don't care, I and I
Well,
think
the
that's
thing-
the big thing, is that none of us really, not like we don't care. It's just,
You're so caught up in your own survival thing,
right.
Well, that's why I'm not sure that this new generation is that strong and powerful for change. I think the 60s and 70s may have been stronger, and if we had been able to keep that up, maybe there would have been more progress. But maybe part of the younger generation is willing to fight for things that don't affect them directly but affect the world, like recycling, like cleaning up the oceans and the big garbage pit in the ocean. And
Yeah, like Elon Musk has got all this money invested in, like, let's check out outer space. I want to see what's happening there. And my only thought is, like, what's happening in our ocean? Like,
Sorry, due to some minor technical issues, we cut out and we are rejoining. So we're going to pretend this is a brief musical interlude. Relax, enjoy the music, and we'll be right back. Sorry, there isn't any music. Just pretend. Hi, we're back.
So we were talking about we had just left on the ocean stuff, and I just wanted to say we are so I work at Amazon, and we just started working with this company called 4Ocean that is doing a bunch of sustainable stuff. So they sell masks and a lot of plastic type of materials, but it's all recycled ocean waste, stuff that or some of the masks and things like that. You purchase one, it helps them kind of complete their project. So again, guys, like we got some hope. There's hope. We'll get there.
yes, there is. Humans are really, really quite creative. Sometimes not until their backs against the wall and their children are being threatened with death. But then, we are creative, and we are a surviving species.
not all of us will survive though, but humanity in general, I think, will survive. We may have to mutate a bit and quickly, but I really think humans are survivors. No matter what happens to us, if there's any semblance of a few humans left, we will survive and rebuild.
And
God, that
multiply.
sounds like a movie. But we will. And I really think the biggest threat right now is the pollution and plastics and the air and water quality. And I have no fears at all about, nuclear war. I don't mind an alien invasion. All that is fine with me. I'm much more worried about the other things that will slowly kill us. And that's why people aren't paying attention. It's like this virus we have, the COVID. If you broke out in purple spots and boils on your face, people would take it a lot more seriously. But it's invisible. You don't see it, so people don't pay attention to it.
Don't believe in it.
Yeah, some people don't.
It would be a lot easier if there was actual, visual, visual cues. Like if you could know, it's like the good old days with leprosy, like
easy to spot.
Or, holy shit, that guy's got leprosy. Get away from him,
I don't want to be around that guy.
Yes, he should not be working at this grocery store,
Exactly.
Don't touch my food, leprosy man.
Hey, when I first got sent to Catholic school, I was already 10, and I was terrified for years that I was going to get leprosy. I really was. I dream about it and worry that something like a scab was going to turn into leprosy.
Oh no, I laugh, but not unsympathetically.
Yeah, it sounds like we're all back in that same boat.
Right.
We all came from the same place. Like Gary and I went to Christian school together, so we know all about it.
Yes.
Got enough guilt to carry around for the rest of the
That's right. Well, Linda was Catholic school, so that's their hallmark is guilt.
Yeah. But I was already 10 before I went there, so I had a whole lifetime without it. So I was very rebellious when I got there, when I said, don't tell me this. I've been living my whole life this way. And they pulled me by the ear and told me otherwise. Yeah.
Right.
So it was strange.
Meanwhile,
the nuns, that's the aliens. That's it.
We were called on to like make sculptures of evolution in Christian school, which is really, I remember like, this is the various steps in evolution, but this is why it isn't real.
What did you do? How did you make something?
I don't know. With some kids with Play-Doh and clay, like shaping skulls or whatever,
Oh, I'd love to see what that would look like.
Yeah. Well, it had to be, like the reasons why we're not monkeys, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Of course, we're not monkeys. Monkeys look like this.
And there are still monkeys.
Look at their jaws. They're completely different. They can't be the same. That's not your grandpa,
My grandpa wasn't no monkey.
Now, Cousin Joe, he's another matter.
He was an American.
So like I always think about how scientists found these dinosaur bones, recently, say the early 20th century, with all the major archaeological dig where, they were like finding Tyrannosaurus Rex skeletons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like those things have been found by primitive man before, like imagine what like a caveman thought of when he accidentally dug into the ground looking for tubers and potatoes and like found a fucking skeleton of a T-Rex, like a T-Rex tooth or whatever,
I think that has to be where all the dragon lore comes from.
Absolutely.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah.
And just telltales of people,
Well, that's right.
This
The game
crazy stuff.
Oh yeah.
Monsters.
How do you make sense of a whale skeleton that washes up on the beach if you've never seen a whale before,
Yep.
that still happens now, and people don't know what it is, you know. There are still species on this planet that are yet to be discovered. And, you know, I think if I'm optimistic about anything, it's about, you know, our quest for knowledge maybe will accidentally keep us sustainable. Maybe it accidentally keeps us alive, that we do have, you know, scientific curiosity. And, you know, obviously it's afforded a lot of us, you know, well,
Everything that we have.
Our life, yeah.
I was
our
just
very
catching
existence.
I was just catching up on the AI episode yesterday, and it's incredible to me because we talk about AI. AI's damn got us to the point where we are today. You know, the framework of artificial intelligence, of like collecting data and using computers to resolve situations and run simulations. You know, that is what we have now. That's why we are this.
well, it's one thing I talked about with Gary that I think might actually save us from the threat of like global annihilation via bomb, is that now I know what people in Russia look like, and I can talk to somebody in the Ukraine on Zoom, and we can have a conversation, and I know that they don't look like a cartoon boogeyman bad guy. That it's just
True.
a guy with a house and a cat and a wife and a job, just like me, you know?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that came in handy during the, I'm old enough to actually have been around during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and everybody around us was, you know, flipped out about it. But my best friend was Russian,
Yeah.
and I had no problems. And it helped that my mother would just like dismiss it and say, oh, don't worry about it. They're never really going to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, what? And she goes, if they do, you know, you won't know it anyway. So, but basically she said, no, don't worry about it. And I believed her because I thought it was, you know, such an odd idea. And my best friend was Russian. Why would they bother us? So, but yeah, like you talked about in your other podcast, I re-listened to all of them last night too. And getting under the, we didn't get under the desks. We sat on the floor next to the desk, and we didn't have that books over our heads. We just had our hands, and we leaned down, and it was interesting. I liked hearing you guys talk about that.
I was there's a documentary on Netflix right now. I didn't watch it, but I watched like the trailer. I'm not sure of the name, but it's kind of a recount of what happened when they dropped the nuclear bomb on, I think, Hiroshima. And it's they have like a bunch of the soldiers talking about how they were instructed and different things like that. Like, it's super interesting. I would recommend checking it out.
Well, Proctor, you're the young'un here. Did you do any of those drills? Like
When I was very young, I think I vaguely remember doing some drills, but like largely no, not even a concern.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. You know, we did the tornado drills and all that type of stuff. But I think I vaguely remember like doing the like under the desk from like an imminent threat of that nature, but no, largely no. Although nowadays there's a whole different beast. You know, they're teaching kids about active shooters and shit. Like,
you didn't do the active shooter drills either, right?
no, not really. It wasn't, you know, I graduated in 2009. So
you graduated in the golden age where
yeah,
you were
essentially,
terrified of nuclear war or active shooters.
No, not at all. Just Iraq, you know. That was it.
Graduated high school?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
college? Okay.
High school. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can remember my daughter waking up during the Reagan years, and somebody at school must have said something, because I found her crying in her bed that the world was going to be bombed, about, I think it was Iran and Reagan. And I had never brought it up. I don't know where she heard about it, but she was just terrified that bombs were going to happen during the night. That was horrible. But meanwhile, when I was a preschool teacher, we had the shooter drills. We had to have the duct tape ready to block the windows. We didn't always have curtains. We had to buy curtains so that they could be shut. And we had to, practice taking the kids into the basement for the shooter drills and pick out places where we'd meet and which direction to run. Yeah, it was very weird.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than nuclear war, in my opinion.
Well, not if it actually happens. I mean,
yeah, but we'd be all zapped, The odds are we'd be fizzled fast unless you are on the edge and die of radiation.
I'm right down the road from NORAD. so I'm out of here, baby.
Right.
Well, I think you're near Detroit. In the factory days, they would have gotten us for munition plants and tank buildings. I didn't want my daughter to move to DC because I was afraid that if there was a war or something that they'd bomb DC and she'd get killed. So I do think about it.
Yeah. It's tough not to.
Yeah, but I'm much more concerned about, she goes to a grocery store and some guy shoots up the place.
So, Gary, what did you get out of this experiment from 3 episodes in the wrap up of like having your friends over to talk about the end of the world?
The imminent threats that we face.
You know what I got out of it? I got an immense amount of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was so much fun, even though it was dark, even though it was unsettling and weird, it was almost therapeutic. You know what I mean?
True.
To be able to talk about like the things that linger in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
Because I created the totally random randomizer using things that I'm actually worried about. So everything you guys picked was something that lives inside the back of my brain, regardless
that
of
crosses
push the button to
creeps,
yeah,
creeps
that's
across
exactly
your mind at some point. Yeah.
right. So no, I feel like it's cathartic, maybe.
It's like a good night at the bar with friends.
Well, here's the other thing is I've been selective in who I've had on to talk to. So, we've all got those specific friends. Like if I brought up some of this with some of my friends, they'd either go just the opposite direction or we couldn't really have a constructive conversation. We could have a conversation where they would say like, that's ridiculous. There's no way that sort of thing could happen. I'm not afraid of that.
And here's all the reasons why not.
Right. And then every reason they give why not makes my head spin a little bit. That's not, but so fortunately you nerds made the cut.
Yay.
Yeah.
Right.
Winning.
Well, Brian,
I'm glad you
weighed in, Brian, on optimism.
I always say that I love people, like individual people. I love them intensely. This is a good example of that. Like Gary said, we could talk about nothing for hours and record it, and now you are, and that's badass.
Right.
And I feel like this is expanding that circle, which is amazing. So individual people I love intensely, but people with a capital P I distrust and worry about all the time, because I think as a species we only tend to be our own worst enemy. And so philosophically I'm not optimistic. Historically, I'm optimistic that we're going to go through a cycle that has happened for centuries, where things are going to get real terrible and shitty, and then they're going to have to rebuild because it's happened before. And so I think that the perspective, and I think it was Michael that said, what's it going to be like for my kids or my nieces and nephews or my ancestors? What are they going to be looking at? Things that are better. And I think in terms of having enough for everybody, or having peaceful living conditions or whatever, I don't know that that's ever been the case, and I don't know that it will ever be the case. I think it's a great ideal and I would love to see it, but I'm not optimistic that we're going to balance that out, that we're all going to suddenly start giving a shit about our neighbor. I think that's I think that's radical, and I wish it would happen, and I will continue to work personally at, a local level, a personal level, to try and make it happen. But I don't know that I believe it will ever be the status quo for quote unquote, capital P people. So I guess that's a vote against optimism, technically.
Just delayed. It could happen in 1,000 years.
It could, but I think Linda made a good point, is that in our own pockets of our communities and our families and the areas we can control, we can make a difference by helping other people and extending those efforts to make things better. And I think that's all we can really hope for. And if enough of those pockets start to intersect and overlap, then that's what's going to start seeing a change. I think we've seen some glimmers of that in the last couple of years, where things hit such a just tense and stressful point that people started to say, this is, we have to dig our way out, unfortunately. And I think we started to see some of those things start to pop up, but it seems like every time that happens, another challenge gets thrown in. And I think, like you said, COVID is a perfect example of that. I thought at the beginning, it's like, well, I don't envy the people who are in leadership, because they got to make some terrible decisions about what to do and how to do it. But once we do, we can all get behind it and work together. And then I was like, oh my God, what in the actual fuck is going on?
Right.
Because all of a sudden, I'm like, we can't even agree that highly contagious viruses that are killing 500,000 people are bad. All of a sudden,
Right.
That's a political issue that you can actively fight against. People fighting against them, the fact that it even exists, let alone that we should be unified in our attempts to try and reduce its negative effects. And I'm like, and that's when capital P people raise their head, and I'm like, sweet Christ almighty, like this is, and that's when I, like you said, all you can do is bury, and I did this a lot in the last years. I go in spurts of burying my head in the sand, and like Gary said, just focused on my own shit, because all I can do is, help the 3 people in my house that are not me. Right. That's all I can do. And then other days I'm like, oh my God, I love everybody. I have to reach out and help them and connect with them. And I need that. But then other days I'm like, oh God, no, it's scary. I'm going back in my hole. And
that's about right.
It is. But I think that's, that limits us, as far us, capital U, as far as what we can do to help others. And I think that's why it's just got to be that constant support for each other. And eventually, hopefully, against hope, I guess, that might lead us to connect and start to see things improve. But I think it's more possible in other countries, as much as it saddens me to say it. I think that there's just that aggressive sense of individualism, and almost being part of a collective is seen as weakness. Or an unpatriotic act, that you would put others before you, or you would sacrifice, your own for others, or that sort of thing. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I think that that's going to keep at least the US firmly behind a lot of other places who seem to have a better sense of what's good for the whole.
Because we value the rebellion, not the reason. We value we're going to bind together and fight against this, whatever it is, regardless of whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. We divide up into our tribes. You got all these different groups, and I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody wants to admit, hey, we're all fucking stupid. We really are. We don't know shit.
Yeah. Look how long it took to get rid of Trump.
I did something to myself last year that was maybe in hindsight not recommended for other people, but after I was injured and off my feet for about 7 weeks, and so what I did was I ordered the uncut copy of The Stand, and I started reading it about the week before COVID became a thing.
Whoa.
I finished reading it just as I was coming back into a work environment at retail in a grocery store. And so like it really melted my head for quite a while. And like I was trying really hard to not like identify people as like, well, those people would go with Mother Abigail, and those people over there, they're all going to Las Vegas, you know, because they're bad. And like I've been to Las Vegas, and I totally get why all the bad people would want to go to Las Vegas. You know, I kind of think they're going to end up there anyway. Like my reality is pretty warped as it is, and like having the last year that we did, like with the people in charge that we did, all felt like some sort of terrible Twilight Zone episode that would never end. And like I'm hoping we're looking at the scrolling credits of that episode right
Yes.
now, you know, and like I'm not really like looking forward to the next episode that much, but if it is like aliens in the next episode, I guess I'm not going to be that surprised. Like I'm just going to shrug my shoulders, and I'll probably still have to go to work, you know.
Yeah.
I probably
Still got
be
to eat.
bananas when the alien overlords take over. So you know what to do.
Whoa.
What was
Oh.
this?
Hello.
Windy.
Wow. Anyways,
Sorry, I apologize. I'm in the process of paying for something. So
Oh,
talk amongst yourselves.
okay.
should we wrap up soon? We've been like at this for quite some time.
We probably should.
Yeah,
But
the world will go on.
well, I think life will. I think people will, as far as the species is probably going to survive. I don't. Yeah, as far as the numbers, I don't see us surviving en masse, but some of us are going to make it.
Sorry guys,
Yeah.
I was reading the cliff notes of The Stand. I wasn't familiar with that works. That's a bad choice, bro. Yeah. I can see. I to that point, the pandemic sucked, and we definitely made some bad decisions. We made some good ones too. I was very optimistic. I think that this whole thing maybe helped break us down into a little bit more of a tribal kind of mindset. There are definitely some bad things about that, but I think a lot of people found sort of a modern tribal take throughout this thing, because you had to kind of go into the communities, on the internet that resonated with you, and like hopefully a lot of people found the ones that will really help shape them moving forward. And maybe kind of open their eyes a little bit.
Like shaping your avatar, you know, like we talked about at the beginning. Oh no. Oh, hey, we're in the pro account.
Woo, fancy.
Yeah. See.
Woo!
Oh, I dropped the big bucks.
Yeah.
That's because
Do you
I've
need
made. That's because I've made it.
donations?
Oh no, I don't need donations. I've
Okay.
No, he absolutely takes donations.
I'm
you guys
fabulous.
can donate through the PayPal link that we'll link up in the episode.
No, I'm fabulously wealthy. In case you guys don't know, I just live like a pauper, but I've got billions in the bank.
Scrooge McDuck.
That's right. I'm a benevolent overlord.
Oh no, you're the one we've been waiting for.
I like to talk to you little people every now and then, you know.
But does that make sense? Whereas, and I say, like, everyone was so isolated, and so they had to kind of reach out through the internet to these different communities, and like I found a lot of stuff that, you know, I'm really interested in, and I've become involved, you know, in those communities, and like I enjoy it. Like I found things that I never really would through
Well,
this
that's
whole
probably
thing.
because you're a good person, because there's shitty people who found shitty things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who
Absolutely.
also think they're good people.
Yeah.
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 Because
They're the right ones.
nobody's the villain in their own story.
Yeah. That's
True
why
that.
there's always the other, you know, it's always the
Yeah.
alien, you know. But like, if you give yourself a chance to come out of this last year and level up, then you should do that, you know. And like, if there are things that like you didn't like before that you don't want to continue, then you don't have to, you know. And like, we're all gonna have to learn how to go back into society now. And what does it look like? What are the things we're willing to drop off, you know? Maybe there's some things we don't need to do anymore that were stupid, you know? Like, are you ever going to be comfortable eating a piece of birthday cake again after blew candles out on it? I mean, that's a weird thing anyway, isn't it? It's really weird. Like, let me just spread my germs all over this cake and then you eat it.
That is,
Yeah. We were very brave
yeah.
back in the day. Primitive.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. See, I think the biggest problem that we're going to have after we get past this pandemic is when we're not wearing masks anymore, is the facial expression problem. Because
I'm failing that one.
Oh man, I make faces at people right straight to their face behind that mask. Like, if I think somebody's stupid, I know I'm doing this like mocking thing with my mouth because I know they can't see. And it's at the point where, well, let's say it's a year and a half and we're mask off. I wouldn't be that surprised if I end up getting fired.
I'm kind of the other end of that spectrum. So I think I'm like a little bit of a people pleaser. I tend to smile to like make people feel comfortable. So
That's
like
me.
with the mask, you have to smile extra. So like I'm sure I probably look like the fucking Joker underneath and I'm gonna look like a jackass when this stuff comes off.
I don't
That'd
have
be
a
me.
face at all. I have zero tell in my face. Like, my eyes give away everything. So like I already have to mind that. Like, when I'm pissed off, like, it doesn't matter what my jaw looks like, my eyes will tell you. You know, so it's already a trip for me, you know.
I'm with Michael there because I haven't had any chill in my facial expressions for years, so that's not an issue. I was actually on a date once at a theater, and we were seeing some play, and the actors were sitting on the front of the stage, and we were a couple 3 rows back, and I feel my date's elbow jamming into my ribs, and I kind of look, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, they can see you. And I'm like, yes, I can see them too, and that's the problem. And she's like, yes, but you're making this terrible face. And I'm like, oh. Well, I don't know what to tell you about that. So no, it's been interesting. What's been curious though is that people have made comments since we've been wearing masks. So like, by the way, I'm smiling. They've started narrating their because they're like, oh, by the way, you can't see, but I'm smiling. And I'm like, oh, well, great, thank you for that. I'm
laughing at your joke. Hey, look, I'm laughing. I'm laughing.
They started saying LOL out loud, like they're narrating their emojis.
Don't even say that.
It's great. That's what's happening. That's what's happening.
We could probably start that. We could probably start that trend easy.
That's what the kids are doing, Proctor. The kids are narrating like emojis. It's terrible.
ERBL.
That's right. They're doing it.
Did you guys know it's progressed to a point where now if you use a certain emoji, you're considered out of touch and out of style? You have to use the latest emojis.
I don't even understand emojis.
What are the latest?
So you know the crying laugh face. Now, if you do that, you're considered a boomer. And I just did finger quotes. I know you guys can't see me. And so you have to,
he's doing it, Brian. He's doing it.
See, I told you the kids are doing it, Gary.
You got to do the sideways. You got to do the sideways laughing cry face. So it has to be the crooked one, not the straight up and down.
I like that one better anyway.
Yeah, pro tip.
And I'm a boomer.
I just got instruction on that the other day about because somebody made some comment about when they found something very funny. They made a comment about dead, but they wrote it out, and someone's like, "Oh no, that triggers the Facebook police. You have to put the skull and crossbones emoji to say that you're dead from laughing. That's the otherwise they think that you're making a death threat." And I'm like, I'm like, you know what I'm happy about? Not spending an immense amount of time on Facebook because I don't have time to learn all that extra shit. So
I concur with that, man.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I barely
I'm just
ever
doing
post
archaic
anything.
stuff.
I barely ever post anything anymore because every time I try to get even remotely into any serious topic on there, I get, 150 people who are they're just on there to fucking spite post and hate comment, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're
I've actually-
oh, I hate that shit.
I've
Yeah,
actually catered my feeds really, really well. So I'm actually super happy with my social media experience. But it took a lot of work. But you can cater your feed. Like you can beat the algorithm, guys. I swear. It's
Yeah, I
possible.
do pretty good,
Yeah,
actually.
done that pretty well with this episode. Like,
Yeah. Well, and
he
actually,
came right to the the nerdy kids at the right nerdy lunch table. Really,
I don't have to eat alone anymore.
Gary said it was Gary's round table, but really it's Gary's square table. And it's all the people that would still eat lunch with Gary now that would have eaten lunch with Gary back then. We're all there, and that's pretty much been my experience in the 2 episodes so far.
Yeah,
We're all
it was an awesome time, guys. I had a bunch of fun. That being said, I do have to run soon. So if Gary, if you don't
I'm
mind,
with
can
you
I do
too,
a
yeah.
can I do a plug?
Please
before
feel
you
free to do a plug.
have you had a plug on this show yet aside from mine?
No.
So everyone probably knows me, but listen to my podcast. It's not really that famous. Gary's been an episode. I've been a guest several times. But my new passion is my Dungeons and Dragons podcast, which is called Not Really That Dangerous. So I'm sure we probably got some bleed over listeners here.
Wait, so now you're telling us you play D&D? We could have been talking about that this whole time, but
I
we've been
talk about
talking
D&D
other-
all the time, so
I
didn't
don't,
want to hog.
I
didn't
don't,
want to hog
Brian.
the
I
spotlight.
don't, Brian, and it's my goddamn square table.
Right.
All right. Well, Proctor, I'll find you because you
dude,
just said the
please,
magic.
yeah.
You just said the magic words, buddy. So.
Absolutely, I appreciate you guys.
I apologize for not introducing you guys on that nerd level. It didn't even occur to me.
It's okay. That's totally acceptable.
I always
Also,
wanted to learn that.
I love the podcast. I love the title. I think the title is my favorite thing about this podcast. Even though it's not always a round table. I don't know, man. There's also no other Gary's round tables in existence.
There aren't. That's why I picked it.
But we got to get you some art, bro. I'm gonna get my my wife to do you some art, something cool.
Well, that would be awesome. I also got to get off my lazy ass and do it because I haven't.
No, dude, let me do this for you. It'll be like my gift. I want you to send me
Okay.
some stuff you like, and
Careful.
I'll have her do something. Oh, I know you're weird. It's okay. I know you're weird.
You like me anyway.
I do. But it was super nice meeting all you guys, man. Loved it.
Cool.
Had so much fun.
Thanks. It was great fun.
This has been great. Thank you for bringing us together.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I love all of you guys. So we'll do this again. Like I said, I don't know what the path is going forward, what exactly I'm going to do with this. But I really appreciate all of you being a part of it. And this was a lot of fun. A little less than some of the other ones. So yeah, we'll get the drunken campfire episodes eventually.
For sure.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this too because I know Gary won't. If anyone's listening, you guys got to leave him a review. Rate him, give him 5 stars. And if it's not 5 stars, message him and tell him why it's not 5 stars.
Right.
Yeah, and if it's because Mike Proctor was on here. then-
Sometimes I have that effect. I'm
Right.
okay with that. Let me
Right,
know.
name names. Be specific.
That's
Yeah,
right. I
true.
want to know who. All right. Well, yeah, I guess we'll wrap this up then. But I thank all of you for your input and your friendship. And this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, for real.
Do
Thank
it
you.
again.
Appreciate you guys. Catch
Yeah,
y'all next
sounds
time.
good. All right.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Peace.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Gary's Roundtable, Season 1, Episode 4. I want to thank my guests, Linda Alvira, Bryan Dryer, Michael Couling, Mike Proctor. I'd also like to thank Cal Warner and Brant Swafford for joining us on previous episodes. The first 3 were phenomenal. The wrap-up was a lot of fun, and I think kind of left us with a little bit of hope, if not an overabundance of hope. But still a lot of fun to kind of reflect and not just dwell on the negatives, because this is a very dark subject matter. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in, listening, and go give us a like, give us a listen, share, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.